Welcome to the College Basketball Bros. I am Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, before we get to our sleepers and Final Four picks, quick reminder to join our ESPN Tournament Challenge pool. I'll have a link to that in the description below, both on YouTube and in your podcast apps. And the winner gets to slap Trey in the face as hard as they can. Trey has graciously agreed to that. But let's get right into it. Let's get to our sleepers, and we'll start in the South region. Ryan, who's your sleeper there?
Yeah, this is a strong region. I feel like their top two seeds I think are really good. Arizona and Alabama. I think it's the best 1-2. But as far as sleepers, there's definitely a few I like here. But I'm gonna go with UCSB, University of California, Santa Barbara. They were in the tournament a couple years back. They've been a really strong program, and they got a couple guys from that team that were in it a couple years back that. They gave Creighton a run for their money in their first round. Had to come down to the end. So, Miles Norris is a really good player for them. He was like an Oregon transfer, 6'10", is kind of a unique player. He's a stud. So, I think they're going to give Baylor a run for their money and could come out of that kind of 4-pack right there. I wouldn't be surprised if they made the Sweet 16.
Okay, so that's a 14 seed for the listeners going up against the 3 seed Baylor. That's a deep sleeper. I'll just full disclosure here. I took the sleeper thing a little differently, so mine they might seem kind of weak, but I took it as maybe a sleeper to potentially win the region. So
right, okay.
Not picking too many double-digit seeds, but I'll go San Diego State as a 5 seed, just because I like their path. They play arguably the weakest 12 seed in the tournament in Charleston, and then the next round, arguably the weakest 5 seed in Virginia. And I know the Mountain West has gotten a lot of bad publicity for being, doing pretty horribly in the tournament lately. But I could see this team being different. They're very veteran team. Every key contributor is a junior or senior. They've been to the tournament before. I could see their defense getting it done.
All right, and for me, I think a team that can make a run is Creighton, the 6th seed there.
Don't say it, Trey.
Well, I mean, when you look at Ken Pom and Sagarin, they're completely misseeded. They're favored over NC State. They'd be a tiny favorite or a pick against the 3 seed Baylor, and then just like a tiny dog against the 2 seed Arizona if they got there in the Sweet 16. Their balance last year had the ball in the final minute to beat the national champ Kansas, but fell short. And it's pretty much, the exact same team. So they haven't been peaking right now, but they're capable. Let's put it that way.
I'm also so sorry to the YouTube viewers who are able to see us naked for a second there. I took the overlay off. Not actually naked, but it felt naked without that overlay.
Just you.
Well,
just
Trey's
you.
also Trey is also not wearing anything under the the table, but luckily that's covered. So well, I hope Creighton does make a run.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on the South region, or should we move on?
Let's move on.
Yeah, go ahead. I think Utah State could scare Arizona in that second round.
I like Utah State too. They're really good shooting 3, so if they get hot,
they're good.
Arizona is they're very, very, very good, but they've also had some really head-scratching losses, like some of the worst losses of the top teams. So that could definitely happen here.
Okay, now let's go to the Midwest region, and I'll start here. I mean, I like Houston and Texas as the 1 and 2 seeds here, so I'm not going to be picking against them. But my possible sleeper to make a run would be Iowa State, the 6th seed. They're 6-11 in their last 17 games, and one of their better players, Caleb Grill, is no longer with the team. So not a lot of people picking them, I think. But they've got a ton of close losses, and the Big 12 is just brutal. So I think they're better than their record would indicate there. And I like their path against Pitt. They're going to be a healthy favorite. Round of 32, Xavier, of course, still without their top big guy, Zach Fremantle, out for the year. And if they end up having to face Texas down the road, they split the season series with them. So you never know.
Yep, that's I can see that. They made a decent run last year too. I'll say Indiana and they're one of those teams that can look really good or really bad. But they're good, can make a run in the tourney. Trace Jackson Davis is one of the best players in the country. Jalen Hood Schifino, one of the best freshmen out there. And they'd face the winner of Miami Drake. And Miami has a key player battling an injury, status kind of unknown at this point. So there's definitely a path to the Sweet 16, and then they'd get a crack at Houston most likely. And at that time, we still don't know if Sasser is going to be 100% with that groin issue that he's dealing with. So maybe Indiana catches them on their personal good day.
Yeah, I kind of
That's a
like
good
where. Yeah, that's a big
Facing
one
a
for
couple
me.
of injuries potentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm actually going to pick from kind of that same spot. I'm actually going to go the team that's going to play Indiana first round, Drake, out of the Missouri Valley. Drake's good. They've had a really
Or they
good
play
year.
they play Miami the first
Oh,
round.
I'm sorry. Yeah, they play Miami first round. Would play Indiana in the second round. Excuse me. Thanks, Trey. But yeah, I really like Indiana or Drake. They got a really, really good player in Tucker DeVries. He was kind of recruited by like almost everybody, not exactly like the top Power 5 schools, but schools like Creighton and stuff wanted him. But his dad's the coach at Drake, so ended up at Drake. And he's surrounded by a bunch of seniors. He's a sophomore, but everybody else that gets meaningful minutes is a senior. So that's a really well-rounded team that I think could make a run. I think they could scare Houston in the Sweet 16 to make a run in the Elite Eight.
Okay, let's move on to first off, pull up the bracket here on YouTube. Any other teams stand out from the Midwest region?
No, but I do want to say, like, I do like Indiana maybe as a team that could, but I'm also scared about their first round. Like, they're only, I think, about a 4-point favorite right now to the 13 seed Kent State. So, because Kent State, they only lost by 7 at Gonzaga and 5 at Houston. So, like, they can scare some teams.
And
Yeah,
then,
part of.
Go ahead, Mike.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, thank you. Well, we also don't forget, some of these sleeper picks, you always got to worry about the first 4. I mean, Pitt just came off of a win, so they're in here. They're going to be playing against Iowa State in that first round, a 6 versus 11. So more often than not, those first 4 teams make a run.
Yeah, they have had some pretty good success, and it is whenever you're picking a team to go deep, it is scary when you have to worry about the first round, like you say with Indiana. Like, hey, Indiana could go to the Final Four, they could go to the Elite Eight, but then it's not that unlikely that they go down first round. So that can be kind of scary. All right, let's go to the West region. What are you looking at there, Trey?
Okay, this region is loaded. Like,
yeah,
1 through 4, I mean, could all go easily, almost win it all, I guess, in my eyes. Like, they're crazy. I guess a sleeper here, I'll say TCU as a 6 seed. Part of the reason they're a 6 seed is because their best player, Mike Miles, missed 8 games this year due to a leg injury, but he's back. He was the preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. And last year in the tournament, in the round of 32, they lost in overtime against the 1 seed Arizona to go to the Sweet 16. So they've got some experience. This year they've beaten Kansas and Texas. So they're capable of making a little run.
That they are. I'm gonna say VCU, Virginia Commonwealth. They're playing against St. Mary's in the first round. St. Mary's not coming off their strongest performance, just getting absolutely annihilated against Gonzaga. I know Gonzaga is a super strong team, but still. So yeah, VCU, they got some great players. Adrian Baldwin is one of my favorite point guards to watch. He is extremely quick. It's a lot of steals. And they got some transfers that come in from higher level programs. So they've been playing well. The A-10's a really strong conference, and they were clearly the best team in that conference. So I got to give them a lot of respect.
Okay, well, I am going against you, Ryan, because my sleeper is going to be St. Mary's. They're the 5 seed, but this is just like you say, Trey, the region of death where 1 through 4, it's just you got Kansas, UCLA, who's the 3 seed, Gonzaga, and UConn. So it's impossible for me to take anyone outside of those 4, and none of those are sleepers. So, but if I had to choose someone, I'll just go St. Mary's, just because they're a darling of KenPom. I think they're 11th in KenPom last I checked, and it's maybe it's possible people like Ryan are overreacting to St. Mary's recent struggles.
Sure.
They had their last 2 games against Gonzaga, they just got crushed pretty much. I mean, I guess the first one they made a
They
little
hung
bit of
in
comeback
pretty
at the end.
good. Yeah.
But it was comfortable losses. But I don't know. I just think
Yeah.
Gonzaga is hitting their stride. They're hitting another level. I felt like they kind of
Yeah.
slept walk through the season a bit, and now they're just national title caliber. So I'm not dinging St. Mary's too much for that.
Got to watch out for UCLA and their injuries too, though. That's
Yeah,
unfortunate. We'll see how it goes.
yeah,
But
that would be a great matchup in the Sweet 16, a rematch of
Oh, yeah.
UCLA and Gonzaga. That would be fun.
I mean,
see if
seriously,
UCLA can get
if
by
it ends up being
Boise.
if it ends up being chalk of Kansas, UConn, and UCLA Gonzaga, like that's a Final Four. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Well, let's get to the last region, the East. Ryan, who's your sleeper there?
Yeah, I won't go too deep on this one because I'm not really digging any of the long shots. I mean, Oral Roberts is kind of fun. Max Abmas is a great player. But I'm going to go with Memphis. Memphis has just got like their whole team is seniors. It's kind of crazy how many seniors they have. Kendrick Davis is probably the best player in that conference, the American. He had 22 points per game this year and 5 assists. He was all over the place. And him and DeAndre Williams are a great kind of guard forward duos. They play really well with each other, and they beat Houston the American Conference title game. So pretty comfortably. That was very, very impressive. So Memphis could make a deep run. They could go Final Four.
And they're an 8 seed going up against the 9 seed Florida Atlantic in the first round. Okay, well, here's my weakest sleeper yet. It's a 4 seed in Tennessee, and I guess the reason I'm qualifying them as a sleeper is they're 5-7 their last 12 games. Rick Barnes underachieves all the time in March. They just lost their point guard for who was 10th in the nation in assist rate, out for the year. So I don't think there's a lot of people picking them to go super deep, but they still got a lot of talent. Arguably the best defense in the country. They had double-digit wins against Kansas and Texas in the non-conference, so we've seen a really high ceiling from them. And in a few of those losses down the stretch, they were missing Josiah Jordan-James and Julian Phillips. So they're, while of course not 100%, they're getting a couple guys back these last few games that should help.
Yep. I mean, this isn't, I guess, a sleeper now, but they're just not a 1 or a 2. The 4 seed, or is it the 5 seed? Sorry, Duke. They're one of the hottest teams now. They won the ACC tournament fairly comfortably, and I think in this region, if they are able to get by a Tennessee, they get arguably maybe the weakest number 1 of the tournament if Purdue gets there. And I just think kind of like if you look at the bottom half of the bracket, that's pretty wide open. No like kind of super teams down there. So I could really see Duke making a run and get into Houston for the Final Four, even though the ACC this year wasn't great, but they're hot.
Man, that would be really funny if Duke got to the Final Four or just won it all the year after Coach K.
Coach K.
They could, man. They're playing great.
They are. Okay, well, let's get to our Final Four and championship picks. I will start. So my Final Four, left side of the bracket, I got Alabama against Purdue. Alabama, best team in the country. And then Purdue, I don't necessarily feel great about, but I just felt like their region was pretty weak. So kind of went with them by default. Other side of the bracket, Texas against Gonzaga. Texas closed the season really well. I think the gap between them and Houston is maybe not as big as the pick percentages on ESPN's pools would indicate. And then the Zags, I just think arguably the best team in the West with UCLA not 100% healthy. So that's my Final Four. Championship, I've got the Zags over Alabama. I guess part of this is just my heart. I want the Zags to finally win.
Yeah.
I mean, now they've just become a blue blood, so it doesn't feel like this big underdog story, but it is. Like it's insane.
Yeah, right.
Gonzaga closing it out and winning a national title would just be one of the craziest things to ever happen in sports. Like, when you look at where they were 25 years ago, 20 years ago.
Right. That would be cool. Who's next? Is it Ryan or me?
Oh no, it's you.
Trey.
Go for it.
Oh, okay. Here we go. So as you can see, I've got Alabama. I just think they've got a nice path in the South region, kind of plowed through the SEC. Nothing crazy there. I'm going with a shocker. Memphis in the East. I really agonized over this region. I just think they can upset Purdue and then kind of, make a run the rest of the way. Ryan, you made those points. I really like how they beat Houston. They were competitive with them before. They earlier in the year they beat Auburn, lost by only 3 at Alabama. So I think Penny Hardaway has them going strong. The other side, I got Texas. I just think it would be really cool if they play against Houston, maybe in the Elite Eight. It would be cool if Houston got to Houston to play in the Final Four, but I think Texas is hot right now. So I went with another Texas team there. And then finally, UConn. Like I said, those top 4 teams in that region, I wouldn't be surprised if any of them get there. I'm just going to take UConn. They're balanced inside and outside. Sonogo outside with Hawkins. But I got Texas staying hot against Alabama. And then I'll say just like an amazing football matchup. Ryan, you pointed that out too. I'll say the Longhorns cut down the nets. Kind of a little surprise.
Well, you both had Alabama and Texas in your Final Four. So you guys are on the same wavelength there. Not me. I'm going a little different there. In the South, I'm taking Arizona. I'm a big fan of them. They are one of the most physical teams, but then their big men are just great. They got 2 7-footers that just one of them really, really runs the floor as good as I've ever seen. So they're a load to handle with, and I think they can kind of dictate tempo pretty well. Then in the East, I like Marquette. They are on fire. They played really well to end the year. They're nothing really jumps out at you in particular. Their point guard, Tyler Kolek, just seems to find a way to make plays. He's not an elite athlete or anything like that, but he's just crafty and finds a way to get it done. Got to love the lefties. So I like Marquette. They're playing great. In the Midwest, I'm taking Houston. I'm hoping Sasser's kind of injury isn't too bad because I think they can kind of get away with it their first kind of couple games. I'm not a huge fan of Iowa or Auburn in their second round matchup. So I think maybe the first weekend they can kind of have a little bit of they don't have to play their best to get to the Sweet 16. So I'm taking Houston all the way there. And then in the West, I'm taking the Zags. Like Michael, you covered them pretty well, but they're just hitting their stride. They really, really are. They've got good size. Drew Timme is, arguably the best big man in the nation. So he's a load to deal with. And then I got Marquette against Gonzaga in my final matchup, and I'm taking Marquette. Going with the Big East squad here. A bit of an underdog. Nobody's really expecting it, but they're a 2 seed. So can't be too shocked to see a 2 seed win it all.
All right. I like it. So there you have it. That'll do it.
It would be a shaka.
Yeah. All right. I guess we had
smart
to end
pick.
it there.
A very smart pick.
That's a good point.
Wow.
Yeah.
Does anyone know his middle name?
Yeah.
All right. That'll do it now for this
Not gonna
episode
happen.
Did you make another pun?
That's his middle name. So
Wait, what did he say?
Yeah, where's
I
the
don't
connection though?
I said
didn't
it's not
hear what
going to
you said.
happen.
Oh,
Probably not. I don't see the connection though.
That's his middle
that'll
name.
do it.
Not
Finally,
gonna
can I
happen.
finally end the show for this
Yes.
episode of the College Basketball Bros? Again, join our pool. Link is in the description below, and subscribe to the podcast, to the YouTube channel if you like, I guess, college basketball, or if you like college football. That's our usual thing every week. So thank you for listening and watching. See you next time.